In this video, we're going to take a look at what I think is the tier 0 deck of this format in Lorcana as of December 2023, and it is, in my opinion, without a doubt, Ruby Amethyst Bounce. This deck is just absolutely insane because all of the cards are functioning independently, and when they combo, they're just off the charts bonkers. And what you're seeing on screen here is the exact reason why. The opponent can't break this lock with the Arthur bouncing back to Lady Tremaine for infinite looping removal. And I posted a short about this as a preview to what was to come. And this deck is so good, I've actually gone ahead and built it in real life. And we're going to take a look at the deck profile of the actual deck in the physical form in just a moment. In reviewing the Ruby Amethyst Bounce deck, I have so much confidence that this is the best deck of the format. I actually have it in real life, and so for this deck profile, we're going to be breaking this deck down in the physical card form. To start off, we play a total of 6 1-drops. These are the 1/3s, so we play 4 minis and 2 Olafs. Any combination of this is reasonable. You play this because it combos with Teeth and Ambitions, and it is a big body on toughness to deal with the aggro questers like the Lilos and Maleficents. For the 2-drops, I opt to play 2 Lady Tremaine. I really like this as a shift target and being able to bounce this back to recast to slow down the aggro decks. I also play 3 LeFou because in my version I am running Arthur, and bouncing this back with Arthur, then recasting this to ready the Arthur helps protect it and can continuously loop you for lore with Arthur bouncing cards back. If you're not playing Arthur, you probably don't play LeFou. There are more aggressive versions of this deck that play the Exerting Pinocchio, and for that reason you probably don't play Arthur in that build. We also play 4 Madam Mim Snake and 4 Teeth and Ambitions. This is pretty standard. A 2 costing 3/3 body that helps you bounce back a resource. It's good early game, it's good late game. Teeth and Ambitions helps you manage the aggro threats. Moving on to the 3-drop slot, Madam Mim Fox, in my opinion, the best Amethyst card in the game now. A ton of utility, inkable, only 3 cost, overstated at 4/3, has rush. And then the bounce, which as we've seen is not a detriment, it's actually a plus. A very, very good card, helps you once again deal with any kind of early game threats, and is good late game even to bounce cards. Minnie Mouse Stylus Surfer is one of your aggro threats in the deck. If you're playing against a slower control deck, putting this out on field is definitely the play. But against faster decks, you likely want to ink this because it can't keep up with tempo. So this is a really good card in my opinion, but it is technically a flex spot. You could sub this out for something else, but it is very good in certain matchups. And if it's not good, you just ink it, right? Then you have 3 Arthur. Again, if you're going up against aggro decks, this card really doesn't do much and it's not inkable. So you might have some trouble in that matchup, and so for that reason you've seen more aggressive lists play the Exerting Pinocchio at a 2 cost to tap down something, and for that reason Arthur is not necessarily a win more card, but it's definitely a card that can help you stabilize matches a lot easier, because if you've seen my short, you can bounce back big threats like the Maleficent Dragon, Lady Tremaine, etc., and just have constant removal. We still play 4 Maleficent at a 3 cost draw spell basically, and a body on board that helps you sing one of 4 friends on the other side. It is extremely good. In other Amethyst lists like Steel Amethyst, etc., you might want to play 3 of these, but in Ruby Amethyst I still think you play 4, and it is inkable, so no reason not to. And friends on the other side, draw 2, what is there not to like? Just like in all my lists that I posted before, I play 3 Merlin Rabbit. I don't like playing 4 because I think this card is a bit bricky. Once you see 1 in rotation, you're likely bouncing this back multiple times anyways. You should only need 1. You only play 3 for the chance to see it sooner. Once you play 4 and you have like 2 or 3 of these in your hand, it becomes very clunky. So I like running 3 personally, and I actually think a lot of the bigger tournament lists are also running 3 now, cutting it down from 4. So 4 Goat, probably the second best Amethyst card now. This is the reason why this deck is so resilient, because before these big control decks like Ruby Sapphire control, etc., can start constantly removing your threats, it doesn't matter, because once you get 14, 15, 16 lore, Goat can close out the game for you. You just constantly protect it by bouncing it back to your hand. They can't remove it, and every time you cast it, you gain a lore, and you close out the game that way. Also helps punish very passive decks as well. And at a 4/3 body for 4, it's also overstated for its effect. I've cut down Maui to just 3, down from 4, because we have Madam Mim Fox now, and as a removal spell, Maui just isn't as impactful with a lot of other Ruby Amethysts in the format. and they like to ready up their stuff via the Madam Mim cards. So just being able to bounce back cards and recast them in their ready state after they've quested or challenged makes Maui lose a little bit of value, but it's still very good. And then I played 2 Yzma and 3 Lady Tremaines. Yzma is essentially only going to be used on your cards, only in very, very specific scenarios, which you give your opponent the draw to. You see my short, you see me recycle this like 4 times and just recast it. Like Lady Tremaine is insane. I've had in matches too where I've shifted one Lady Tremaine onto the small Lady Tremaine and then shifted again another Lady Tremaine, then quested with Arthur, bounced all 3 cards back to my hand. Like, it's absolutely crazy what you can do with the combination of cards here. And then for your big removals, 4 Be Prepared, of course. No matter what the game state is, you can always reset the board with this. No reason not to play 4 in my opinion. And then 4 Maleficent Dragon. You could opt for 4 Maui and 3 Mal Dragon, totally up to you. But I think just having more heavy hitters late game is more beneficial at this point for some of the limitations that I discussed with Maui already. So that is the deck list. In my opinion, a tier 0 deck of the format, but let's go ahead and take a look at some matches. So in this first match, we're going to go ahead and put back our high costing cards and our uninkables, which in this case is just Be Prepared and Maleficent. And we're going to ink a 1-drop mini to drop a 1-drop mini. We also have Olaf in hand, and the more 1-drops you see at the beginning of the game, the better it is for this deck, I find, because it just means that they're early ink and you still play out your 1-cost card that can be bounced back later for ink as well. So you have, or you should have, a lot of inkable resources. My opponent reveals that they're likely on Steel Song in a very aggro version, or I guess technically this could be Amethyst, Amber, aggro as well. But the fact that they're playing Queen means that it's likely Amber Steel. So you can see why the Simba, like Lilo Simba combo that was really good in Chapter 1 is not so good now, because it completely gets shut down by Mim Fox, Mim Snake, and it just leaves your Lilo totally vulnerable. Now they are going to be able to quest to 4, but now they just given up their Lilo there for no reason, right? And I'm not on Steel, so there's no reason to quest with the Lilo there. Getting that little bit of lore doesn't really amount to much to lose that Lilo resource until you can protect it again. But I guess right now the opponent is just in a losing board state because they've committed to that Lilo. I mean, what else are they going to do, right? They can't ink it, and there's nothing more that they can really gain off of it other than questing with it, right? They're not going to bounce it back to hand. It's just going to sit there until it dies eventually. And you can't even get utility off of the Rockstar Stitch because you've already played the Lilo. So despite my opponent committing there into trying to get some lore, we're able to completely shut down their board. We do have to be wary of a Whole New World, which the Steel players are very aggressive at playing with Amber Steel usually. But I don't think the opponent's even revealed Steel yet. They revealed Dock here, which is interesting. It's kind of like a Lantern on legs, which in some cases could actually be better than Lantern because it also quests for 2. But the opponent gets their 6th ink, and then they reveal their final card in Tinkerbell, so they're likely going to be fishing for a top deck, a Whole New World. And so we also dump our hand pretty aggressively, but yeah, at this point you can see here that we've just outed the entire opponent's board, and we've just dominated this match from the get-go pretty much. Even the opponent's attempts at getting back lore real quick didn't really do much. They top deck a Grab Your Sword, which wipes out 2 out of my 4 characters. But we're going to be able to, yeah, oh my goodness, it's so broken. Mim Snake back one of the Lady Tremaines, play Merlin Rabbit to draw a card. Look at the resource game right now. Even if the opponent top decks a Whole New World, they have to hard cast it, which skips their turn basically. But they only top deck a Queen, and then we're going to be able to shift this Tremaine on top of our existing 6-drop Tremaine, force the opponent to out their Queen. Then we're going to be able to Mim bounce back our Tremaine to get both Tremaines back to hand. And this is what I talked about in the deck list review, where I said you can like bounce back multiple Tremaines off of the Snake when you shift them. It's absolutely crazy the plays that you can do with this deck when you actually think about all the potential and combo ways that you can kind of just mesh things together, I guess. And this is what I mean too when I say like this deck is strong individually, like just dropping a Tremaine is strong, but then when you combo it with like the Arthur bounce back, the Min bounce back, etc., it just gets even stronger. And that's the hallmark of a really strong deck, in that you don't need combo pieces in order to win. It's one of the main reasons why Ruby Sapphire isn't as good. Anyways, in this second matchup here, we are also going up against an Amber deck here. And I think, once again, this opponent only plays Amber cards for like a while before revealing their second color here. But they do have a shifted Queen, which can be a problem. Queen is very, very good for sure. And then they're going to go a little bit wide, dropping a Stitch and a Simba to protect their Queen. So now they're able to quest. But we do have the Arthur LeFou loop going, and at this point it's kind of like a race, but not really, because we don't have ways to stop the opponent, or they're not in top deck mode, so they're going to still be dropping threats. But this is the combo I talked about as well with Arthur and LeFou, whereas you can, if you have both on board, you quest with LeFou, you quest with Arthur, bounce back LeFou, and then you just recast LeFou to ready up the Arthur, then the opponent can't challenge it. It stays safe unless you have another way to remove it. But in this instance, it's not that great, since my opponent is going quite wide and they have a lot of questing power on board, so I can't just continuously loop this combo. I do have to go another route in order to basically out the opponent's board. We're still a ways away from Be Prepared, and we don't even have one in hand, but with this deck, because of how much you draw with the Friends, the Maleficent Sorceress, and the Merlin, not too worried, and even Yzma, I'm not too worried about trying to find a Be Prepared. But I do need Inkables in order to play out my hand the way that I want to, and I don't want to ink the Friends. Obviously I want to use that. My opponent slows me down, and they're just basically committed at this point to a race, and I think this is the first Emerald card they revealed. But this tells me that they're desperate. With Emerald, they're still playing like Emerald from set 1, where they're just like, I'm just going all in, I'm pushing all the chips into the table, because they have no more resources, right? All their resources are on board. If their resources on board get outed, it's over for them, right? So we're going to be able to drop Maui here and take out the Queen, and we use Maleficent to take out that Simba that was damaged, showing that they did make an error. If they were going to challenge the 1-drop to prevent the 1 damage on the Simba, they should have queened, reduced that attack to 0, and that's why they said whoops, I think, because they realized it afterwards. And it does make a difference, because I was able to wipe out actually, it doesn't make a difference. It does not make a difference, because the extra lore off of keeping a Simba wouldn't have really mattered. Or me outing the Simba with 2 cards and keeping them able to keep 1 card, it doesn't really matter. We do end up getting the resources needed to cast the Be Prepared after top decking it, which again, is inevitable. We play 4 on the deck, we're going to draw into 1. But the opponent still has a lore advantage, and at 15 lore, they are threatening to go for game very soon. So this Simba is the sole thing on board. They top deck a Mad Hatter and ink it, so my guess is they have 2 high costing cards in hand. One of them might be uninkable, and all they can really play out at this point is the Simba. And there you go, the card advantage is just wild. We don't have to worry about getting Whole New Worlded here, but we are going to drop the Tremaine in order to reduce the lore of the opponent. And off of the Arthur, I'm not even worried about bouncing back Rabbit to draw, because I don't need the draw. The lore drain off of the Tremaine, which is again why I talk about in the deck list, why I really like this card to slow opponents down when needed, can be very crucial here. So that's basically nullifying the Simba quest, and sure enough, that was the card in their hand that they were keeping, is the Genie. So they are really going all in here. They can only quest the 19 next turn, but we are going to take out the Simba with the Mim Snake, and then we do have a Tremaine to slow the opponent down. And at this point, we can drop Arthur and Tremaine and just quest for game next turn. The opponent's Genie can't do enough, and there's nothing really the opponent can top deck that would save them here. Yeah, we're just going to outquest them at this point, and I think they know it's game. So we give them the well played, and that is the match. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. There will be more gameplay coming from this deck. Thank you again for watching. Quantum is out.